You're tuned to FBI. This is Back Chat with me, Michaela Morgan, and I'm joined by Elle Hunt from The Guardian. Now, innovation isn't just a catchphrase that Malcolm Turnbull loves to use. Creatives and tech heads are using their skills to develop resources to help people with disabilities live more functional lives.
Last weekend, the City of Sydney held the Unlimited Possibilities Disability and Science Fiction Expo at Customs House. Backchat reporter Ariel Bogle went to check it out.
So the eye-controlled keyboard that we've developed is a new system that uses pattern recognition to speed up the traditional eye-controlled systems beyond a sort of a dwell-based system. Many of them are limited to maybe 1 to 2 words per minute, some of them 5, some of them 10, but we've been able to develop a system that operates at up to and even beyond 40 words per minute.
Nick Temple, a software engineer at the startup Psychonetic, is guiding me through the process of calibrating his sight-controlled keyboard. Once the eye tracking system becomes familiar with my eye movements, I'm able to write short sentences in under a minute, or without lifting a finger. The technology is being showcased as part of an event run by the City of Sydney called Unlimited Possibilities Disability and Science Fiction Expo.
Our perspective is that people with disabilities are essentially people who are awaiting inclusive design. An example that someone who was walking around today actually gave me is that people with glasses are people essentially with disabilities, and it's about removing the stigma and providing people with a technology that allows them to do the same thing that everybody else can do.
Nick's keyboard is part of a new class of technologies that aim to remove barriers for people with disabilities. It's a movement Melanie Tran believes in.
So I'm Mel, and I'm currently working as a lead UX designer at Ability Mate.
Living with a neuromuscular condition, Mel is a lead user experience designer at Ability Mate. Ability Mate is an Australian startup that uses 3D printing to create assistive devices for people with disabilities. Unlike the majority of technology companies that force you to change your habits to fit in with their gadgets, she puts humans of all needs and abilities at the centre of her process. It may seem obvious, but it's actually radical thinking for the world of technology.
User experience design, in short, is the study of human behaviour and how humans interact with a product or a service. It's more about mapping out the customer's journey and ensuring that throughout the journey, we map out the pain points and what their struggles are and what their concerns are along the way. And as a user experience designer, my job is to tap into their emotions, build the empathy, and I guess kind of designed based on our end users' needs and emotions.
It's a perspective that's all the more personal because of her own experiences with technology, most especially her powered wheelchair.
I think when I was a lot younger, I saw a wheelchair more as a burden. It stopped me from accessing places. It stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. But as I got older and as I started to work and got involved in the disability sector myself, I found out that was a freedom instead. It took me to where I want to go. It gives me the independence to do what I love every day.
Mel's startup, Ability Mate, is working with Peter Horsley.
Hi, my name's Pete Horsley, and I'm the founder of Remarkable, a technology accelerator that accelerates startups creating technology that support people with a disability.
Peter says there's a growing push towards universal design. In other words, designing technology so it's best for the largest amount of people. He argues that if you design technology with people with disabilities in mind, you open up more markets as well as creating a better user experience all around.
I mean, iPhone's definitely a great case in point. So there's so many features on the iPhone that it can read out your text messages for you. Obviously, Siri's a great example of an assistive device as well. There's certainly more and more things being built into our mobile technologies these days that enable that. And they're good for just like when you're cooking, you know, to be able to have something that can read the recipe out to you while you've got stuff all over your hands. Like that's a great assistive device.
The iPhone is a universal design, to be honest, because it's used by everyone, but it can also become one of the most powerful assistive technology to someone who has a disability.
There are more day-to-day reasons why universal design is important. Tran warns that the customization necessary to make existing technologies work okay for people with disabilities is often far too expensive.
Those who are familiar with the disability sector, we all know that the word customization and personalization comes with quite a high cost. It's not affordable and it's also not accessible. So I think people tend to wait a long time before funding is approved in order for them to have that customized product that they need.
Cost can also be a barrier when it comes to people with disabilities becoming fluent and comfortable with technology. The Australian Council of Social Services reported that in 2013 to 14, more than 500,000 adults with a disability in Australia were living below the poverty line.
I think there's the danger for technology to be a barrier as well. Certainly, one of the barriers that we're seeing is around digital literacy as well, and that people who have a disability have tended to be left out in terms of digital literacy in some areas. Some of the figures from Australia actually show that that families who don't have more disposable income to buy those assistive technologies, to buy the iPhones, to buy those sorts of things, then get left out of that. So I think that there's definitely something that we need to do some work on in that space.
Ultimately, designers and engineers who don't think broadly and inclusively about who their technology can work for will miss out on a whole world of ideas.
People who have a disability have such a unique perspective on life, and that itself is really a drive towards innovation in the technology and disability sector.
Mel Tran, lead user experience designer at the Aussie startup AbilityMate, and she finished that report by Ariel Bogle.